Hi students, welcome back. This is Plus 2 Computer Application Part 5 video. Before getting into the video, please do subscribe. Okay, now let's check the previous topic. Yes, we have discussed about entity relationship model. Under that, we have discussed about modeling basic concepts. Yes, there are three main concepts: entity or entity type, attributes, and relationship type. And now we are going to discuss about ER diagram. Yes, the topic is continued. In previous session, that is ER model, we have discussed how to convert the table into picture, that is diagrammatic representation. The same thing here, we will put all together and we will make one diagram. For the entire database, we have to draw one diagram. And in this ER diagram, we do have different notations. Look at this table, look at this diagram. Every single image is actually called as notation. They are the components of ER diagram. So let's see what are they. So here in ER components, we do have entity, strong entity. So which is called strong entity? If a table contains primary key, and that table is actually called as strong entity, and it is represented by simple rectangle box. And the next one is weak entity. So which table is considered to be weak entity? If a table has no primary key, then that is actually called as weak entity, and it is represented by double rectangular box. And the next one is relationship. So between two entities, if there is any connection, that is actually called as relationship. It is represented by rhombus symbol. And if the relationship, if both the tables are strong entity, the relationship is also strong. So we will represent by one rhombus picture. And if it is if the relationship is between two weak entities, we should represent by double rhombus, that is rhombus within rhombus. And then the next component is attributes. Attributes means in a table every column is represented as attributes. So attributes will be denoted by ellipse shape, that is oval shape. And if it is key attribute means in a table all the columns are called as attributes, and one particular column we will set it as primary key. So that is actually called as key attributes. What we have to do for key attributes? Yes, you have to underline the key attribute. You should name it and then underline it. That is what the way to represent key attributes. And then the next one is derived attributes. So derived attributes, we will draw dotted ellipse inside main ellipse. This is a way to represent derived attributes. So let me explain with an example for derived attribute. So look at this entity. We do have 4 attributes. Only 4 attributes are present here. That is roll number, admission number, name and date of birth. But keeping this value, you can generate another attribute which is not physically present in this entity. For example, look at the last column, last attribute, date of birth. If date of birth is given, then automatically you can generate age of each student. Yes, that is possible. Keeping date of birth, you can calculate their age. So this is how derived attributes are created. Physically, it will not be present, but you can generate the value from the existing column. And the last component is multi-valued attributes. Multi-valued attributes means what? A column which can hold many values. For example, phone number, favorite hero, heroine, all that you will have multi-values. So that should be represented by double ellipse shape. So that's it. Components, all the components you have to learn with the notation. Okay children, let's try this. Already we have learned database models, that is hierarchical database model, relational database model, network model and object oriented database model. 4 different database models we have learned. You can select any model and you can design database. You can create multiple tables. After completing database, you are supposed to draw ER diagram. You have to represent your database in diagrammatic manner. Now let us convert this relational model database into ER diagram. I have explained about this table in the previous video. So let's convert this into ER diagram. First table, that is student ID, name, age. Three attributes are there. Student ID is set as primary key. So let's convert this table into ER diagram. So entity name I'm just giving as student. First attribute is student ID. Since it is key attribute, you should underline the name of that attribute. And the next one is name and then age. So totally 3 attributes are there. Similarly, the second table, subject ID, name, teacher. Subject ID is set as primary key. So you can convert this table also. Entity name is teacher. Since it is all about teacher detail, I have given the name for entity as teacher. And the first attribute is key attribute, that is subject ID. Second attribute is name. Third attribute is teacher. And finally, the last table, we do have two key attributes, subject ID and student ID. And the third attribute is mark. So let's convert this also. Table name, that is entity name, is marks. So marks entity, the first attribute is student ID. Second attribute is subject ID. Both are key attributes, so just underline it. And the third attribute is marks. So now let's see the relationship between student and marks. Look at the key attribute of student, student ID. That key attribute is copied and pasted in entity marks. So there is relationship. After each exam, who is going to get marks? Yes, students are going to get marks. So the relationship, you can name it as get. Since there is relationship, we have to draw this rhombus diagram. Similarly, teacher entity, we do have key attribute as subject ID. That key attribute is copied and pasted in marks entity. So there is relationship. And what is the relationship between these two entity? Marks are maintained by teachers. Yes, we have completed ER diagram. It is simple and easy. So let's see another example which is given in your textbook. Look at the diagram. So all this will be useful in your higher education, especially if you take computer science as your main subject. Other than theory, you will have practical also. At that time, they will ask you to design any application. So for documentation, for record, you have to design this ER diagram. At that time, ER model, database model, ER diagram, everything will be used. That's all for today. Thank you.